Welcome everyone to another Wisdom of the Heart video series. Today we have a returning guest, Evalyn Sorrentino, and she's joining us from Kittery, Maine. And just so you know, Evalyn is a meditation instructor, she's a yoga instructor, and she's also a Course of Love facilitator. So today's topic is going to be feeling the love of the space that is you. So welcome, Evalyn. Welcome again.
Thanks, Lynn. It's so nice to see you. It's so nice to be invited to do this video as well, because I think it's one of the most important things that any human being can do, no matter what they're doing in their life, because it talks about feeling, and especially people who live in the United States, we have totally learned to live from here up. And we don't live from here down. And we occupy our minds to the extent where we think our thoughts, our ideas, our views are so important that we disconnect from our true authentic self. So I'd like to read from the book, The Course of Love. Navigating the endless space as an expression of love is the simplest thing imaginable. An ad lib here is, and yet most people cannot imagine it. And it is the simplest thing. And more people than cannot imagine it cannot even feel it. All you must do is listen to yourself. Yourself is now a feeling, conscious space, unhindered by any obstacles of form. So again, my point to talk about today is for people to begin to understand what their obstacles are. So the result of not understanding your obstacles and living with your obstacles is that we're all born to be with a very specific purpose, of which this form, my body, my name, Evalyn, is to help facilitate. And very few of us find our real purpose. When we do find our purpose, we find that our life is being led by angels, or you can say a very easy, effortless way. And then we also become an angel to others to help them lead into a very effortless life. And it also refers to how we live and conduct ourselves in everyday life by learning how to be a true activist. Engaging in dialogue with those who join you on a mountaintop is necessary to this next step. One reason is that it allows a starting point for you to practice. While it is possible to practice observance of your obstacles in every situation, it is necessary to practice the ability to learn, ad-libbing, and to help others learn in every situation. We get to a point where we reach a level of neutrality. And that's all I'm going to read here. A level of neutrality with everything that we experience and see. So the reason that I dedicated myself to this is I was a person who totally disconnected from feelings. My mother ate sugar during the whole 9 months that I was in her womb. I was born, I think, sugar addicted. When I was young, the only things I ate were like apple pie for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and maybe a brownie. In '85, I gave up sugar completely because I recognized it was inhibiting the way I was living my life. Even though I thought it enhanced my life, it wasn't. And so as I devoted myself more and more to getting into a feeling state for me, which was yoga and meditation, there are other methods that people can use, but those were vital for me. All of a sudden, I could tap into everything that was happening from here down. And I saw how my thoughts They're totally misguiding a human being because they prevent us from knowing our feelings. And our thoughts help us to be the best we can be in the roles that we want to play to please other people, or to fill this huge emptiness inside of us with things outside of us. And people call that success. So I had this great career. Everything I needed and wanted, I could just get, and kept filling. And I would still feel like a donut, big hole in the middle. That's why I gave up the sugar. And when I gave up the sugar, I could see that that hole in the middle only existed if I wanted to fill my hole up with superficial things.
What was coming up for me when you started talking about the thoughts, maybe we could touch into that a little bit with the difference between the emotions and the feelings.
Sure. I started out pretty young in the corporate world, and I had to fire somebody. And I said, well, it's going to be necessary to do because he's just not following the team method. He's disruptive at times, and I've talked to him a couple of times and he just doesn't get it. Justifiably fired him. Didn't think anything about it. Went to happy hour with some other people that I worked with afterwards. Definitely didn't think about it anymore. Then when I started to do some inner work, this man came to me. First, the judgment. How could I have done that to somebody, right? Immediate judgment. That stopped the feelings and it put me immediately into guilt. And so I realized, okay, guilt is not a good place because guilt freezes me. I know that. So what's below my guilt? Sadness. And I did not want to feel the sadness. So it took me 4 days to work through this. Finally getting to not just calling it an emotion of sadness, but actually feeling it. And in my memory, through the meditation, allowing that situation to be recreated simply by recalling it correctly, feeling the lack of compassion in myself, feeling that the reason he wasn't a team player was because of him, instead of me taking a look at what could I do better or differently for the whole group so that we all work together. So the activist in me was, okay, it's not working, let's get rid of what's not working. But the truth is, the true activist today would say, oh, it's not working, let's all join together and let's all see what our concerns are and how we can remedy them. Years ago, I came across a little prayer that someone shared with me, and it started off like this: take all of me, the good and the bad. And I immediately broke down in tears. I cried like a baby, and they said, what's the matter? I said, the bad too is okay. So that was not a feeling, that was an emotion and a release. So if we fast forward to today, and the way we are thinking today, especially with the Course, is omnipotence. What else is there? Omnipotence is all power. What other power could there be other than all power? So doesn't that mean that the way I've been made, the experiences that I've had, are all guided by the omnipotence, all guided by the universal love? Aren't they all part of my design? So that I can mold them into beautiful things. So it's this part of us that we want to suppress, that we don't want to feel. It's an old wound, but who cares how we got the wound? All we have to do is decide, do I like it or don't I? And if I don't like it, then change your attitude and start loving it so that this will change in you.
So yeah, when you say you don't like it, like it's like you're saying there's a resistance to it, right? If like there's something that we're trying to push it away or deny it.
Yeah, I don't
like the key to it is to embrace it, and that's, to me, that feels like the acceptance. Is that kind of like what you're saying? Yeah.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, I lost that. The original question was acceptance. Yes, acceptance is finally, right? If I don't like this feeling, I'm not going to look at it. So in one of the readings that I did, it said, to be able to come to a neutral observation
Mhm.
point. So
Yeah.
the neutral observation point is once I started to build a history of seeing these feelings inside me that I don't like, and I've
Mhm.
learned to practice acceptance, can be neutral because it no longer puts me in the grave for 5 days of guilt. It no longer makes me cry my heart out that I was such a horrible person. I no longer judge myself as a horrible person. I just say, oh, good, here comes something that was part of my experience in the past, and I'm ready to look at it now, so I will.
Mhm.
Neutral observation. Now, this happens for not just anything that happens directly to us, but if I read a newspaper article, if I see something on the television or in the movies, or I witness something or I hear about something from the newspapers that is behavior that I don't care for, if it bothers me, I must deal with it here.
Mm.
And by withdrawing my belief in that world of duality, good and evil, right and wrong, righteous and unrighteous, it's win and lose.
Yeah.
When I withdraw my belief in that world, all of a sudden I elevate myself to that mountaintop experience where now I am above the battlefield,
Yeah.
beyond the field of good and evil, where the universal love exists. So now I am the true activist because I am not tampering with things that are on the battlefield. I'm rising above, recognizing that each and every person has a responsibility
Mhm.
to believe either God is omnipotent or he's not.
I wanted to talk a little minute about true activism because I love that you're bringing this up. And I think in the day that you started with, I think it was day 12, which you read a couple lines in the beginning, where it talks about like we begin to listen with the ear of the heart, you know, and that the feelings are giving rise to something within us. But that can be, scary for a lot, so I wanted to get like, if you could give us an example or something. And I know you like you said earlier, you use it, you're a meditation instructor and yoga and all that helps ground you, but like, would there be something that we could practically give everyone? Just like people say, well, how do I do this? I'm reactive, I'm emotional. The other question is after that is the true inner activism. It's like, how do I know if I'm guided to do something or to say something? How do I know that it's coming from the true self and not reactive?
Um, when the United States backed out of the Paris Accord, I was a little upset. And I took that into meditation because I couldn't believe our country was not going to sign that when there's a lot of evidence that carbon dioxide and chemicals are starting to efface the world that we know and that I knew as a child.
Mhm.
So I took it into meditation just to see what I could do. I was disturbed, so I didn't like that disturbed feeling. So I stayed in meditation until that disturbance went away. Fast forward a couple of days later, I'm driving down a road and I get this irresistible urge. So the urge is a sensations that occur within my body where I feel as if, to use your term, a magnet is drawing me. So a magnet is drawing me to the right, and it's a car dealer. So I pulled in, still following this magnetic pull, go inside, find this unbelievably charming Korean woman with a very thick Korean accent who I loved listening to. And she shows me this car that's a hybrid.
Mm.
uh, I'm driving a gas car. So I said, no kidding. So I said, she says, let's go take a test drive. So we take it a test drive. Oh, it's wonderful. It's wonderful. I said, well, I had no idea I was coming here today. I'm not in the market for a car. I come home and I talk to my husband about it. And this is one way that you know you're being guided by spirit: collaboration. He said, let's go back and look at it together.
Mm.
I said, really? He said, well, our car's 12 years old. We like to buy a car, a really good car, and drive it into the ground, right? So we go in, he falls in love with it too. The company was given 0% interest financing. Well, it's like a free car. And they gave us a great deal on our Audi, which had 100,000 miles on it. We said, "You're going to give us that?" We couldn't believe it. So that was how we knew we were being guided. And then
you joined with him, and it was like a collaborative,
yeah,
collaborative knowing. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, and not just with my husband agreeing to it, that the fact that there was 0% financing, so it was highly
All
affordable.
fit together, yeah.
Everything came together. They could have the car. They gave us a wonderful deal on our trade-in, which we couldn't believe we would get that much money for a car with 100,000 miles on it. So, and then I remembered the meditation of leaving the Paris Accord. And as we were walking out, I said to my husband, this is one of our contributions to global warming. So that's the true activism, right? Because now I am withdrawing my participation. True activism in war is withdraw your participation in destructive anger. Withdraw your participation in thinking my way is the right way and somebody else's way is the wrong way. Withdraw your participation in win-lose situations. Let it always be win-win.
Yeah.
So now your other question was, how did I feel that magnetic pull?
Yeah.
The only way we feel it is first by acknowledging those unacceptable sensations in our body that we've pushed away, suppressed, repressed, run away from. The first step is so easy, and yet it's the most difficult for people to do. As soon as you want to disagree or defend yourself or defend your position or defend your view, say nothing. Say nothing and allow yourself to feel what is happening inside of you. That is the simplest and the easiest way to begin to tap into sensations. Once you discover this, you have made an announcement to the world, to the universe. I am now ready to listen. You see? And we begin to listen to what's happening here. So anytime you have a feeling, a sensation where you want to defend yourself, now I realize, oh, here comes that feeling. I'm just going to listen to that feeling so I can be diffused. And then I begin to see everybody in a new way. And I say, the universe is a friendly universe. It's not a hostile universe. We're all friendly with one another. There is no winner loser. There's winner and winner. There is no stranger to be fearful of. There's all love and compassion. There's all helpful people, right? Mr. Rogers used to say, look for the helpers in this world.
Yeah.
He said that, right? People thought, well, it's the commies, it's the commies. I think he was like during that time when McCarthy was around, and people blamed everything that was wrong with the world on the commies, which meant the Russian communists. There was nothing wrong with the Russian communists. There's still nothing wrong with the Russian communists. The problem is that we believe that there's something wrong with Russian communists. Yeah. So that is the first real way to do it. Very easy. And I guarantee you, once a person does this on a consistent basis, they will be led to the next student or teacher that will help them go deeper and deeper and deeper. And then once these obstacles go away, we all feel that magnetic pull. We all feel when we go into the subway, and Carl, who was really there in the subway on the green line waiting for me, I just said to him, where's the green line? And he said, you are here. And when he said it, something incredible happened. For 4 days, nothing could shake me. Nothing. The peace was so profound. Like Eckhart Tolle has a great line. The fish says, water? What is that?
Yeah.
Human beings say, love surrounding me? What is that?
Yeah, I guess what I'm hearing is like anytime I want to react, that's to me is the call to go within. If I'm feeling any kind of disturbance or unsettledness, like that's not really the true response. It's more just an outward reactive response. It's not coming from the true self. I think that's what I'm hearing from you. And
Absolutely.
that, yeah, so it's always about going within, as we were talking about earlier, the power of love to be both cause and effect. I have to own that power within myself before any of that's going to be given to the world, because if I'm just coming from the surface reactive level, that's just generating more conflict and division.
Oh, absolutely. So I'll give you
Yeah.
another personal example. I was on a retreat quite a few years back, and it was a working retreat, meaning that there was a particular, I make that differential because many times I go on silent retreats, but this was a working retreat where you had a topic and you were trying to work around that. So at the end of the night, one of the facilitators had meetings with 8 different people. I was one of them. I was next to the last, and then there was a person who was after me. This gentleman was asking me questions, and it went beyond the 15 minutes allotment. And he was asking me some questions about some things that I had brought up. I guess he liked that point of view, but this was really not about that. It was not about the conversation that went on between us. This was about the universe creating this long space to show me something. So finally, after 45 minutes, the next person who was behind me, it's now 10 o'clock at night instead of 9:15, she's pounding on the door. So the gentleman goes over, answers the door, and he says, "Yes, I'm still with Evalyn. Can you give us another 10 minutes?" And I said to him, we have been here a long time. We're only supposed to talk 15. Yeah, I know, but there's another question I want to ask you. So again, as I said, I thought it was about his interest in this topic, but the next day I realized it was something more. So finally, after 10 minutes, he says, "Okay, I think we're done now." So I walk out. It's now really late at night, and the woman just glares at me with incredible hatred. And I said, "He's all yours now." And I went to bed. Well, I couldn't sleep because her violent reaction on that door had upset me so much. And so I just sat there with this feeling, the sensation of this kind of like a stirring around, a lot of chaos within my body. I could feel, finally it went away. I could feel the peace and it went away. So the next morning I go down to breakfast. It's all community hall. And I sit down and there's only one other chair at this table, and it's the only other empty chair in the whole place. So now the woman who had pounded on the door, had been glowering at me with such hatred, sat right across from me in this empty chair. And so I'm asking, is there anything to be said? Does it have to be said by me? And does it have to be said now? And then I get this little phrase, and it made me feel very happy. So I looked across right at her and I said, "Did you think I forgot you?" And she broke down in tears. "Yes, I did think you forgot me, blah, blah, blah." And so I explained to her what happened. And she said, "Oh, I understand now. But yeah, I did think that you had forgotten me. And I understand it was, and it was good for me to feel all this stuff now. And I'm so sorry." And she was so apologetic to me. And I said, "Well, there's nothing to apologize about. We're happy together now." So you see, this is when we become an open vessel. Now we know the difference between reaction, my reaction. I could feel it in my body, but you don't listen to it anymore because you recognize it's the unimportant voice. It's the voice of fear. It's the harsh voice, right? The harsh voice said, "Oh yeah, go ahead, say something nasty back to her." But the loving voice came at breakfast. I filled with a sense of peace. I felt joy, and it had a very provocative effect on her, moved her, got her out of this sadness, and let her see that it had nothing to do with people ignoring her, which she had been in most of her life, been ignored.
That's beautiful. That's like a miracle transformation. You know what's coming up for me, because I've had those experiences too, where if you're just open in that space for someone, and it's like they miraculously appear, back in your life, and then that's the chance to that's the true forgiveness, when you actually realize there's really nothing to forgive, and we're
Forgive.
just claiming our own innocence. But you know, there's a line in A Course of Love, I'm sorry, Course in Miracles, that I actually had an experience with recently. I had that experience with someone, and you know, it shifted like in a matter of 1 week. And it was only because it was me, this person, and another person, and we were in this group together, and there was a lot of conflict and tension. And anyway, so finally one night we just actually shared with each other how we truly felt. Whatever needed to come up was brought to that light of awareness, and it was transformed. The relationship just completely shifted, and we met again a week later. And the person we were having a conflict with decided to read something from A Course in Miracles. There's a section of Course in Miracles called For They Have Come. And it's got like this line in there that it's often quoted, where it says, the holiest spot on all earth is where an ancient hatred becomes a present love. And that's what I was hearing when you described this interaction with this woman, and it really touched my heart. So thank you for sharing that, Evalyn. So I wanted to kind of give it, you know, to you for the last minute or so. That, did you want to have any last minute thoughts, kind of like tying in together? We started with feel the love of the space that is you, and then true activism.
Yes, I'd like to say this, that the level of love that we can feel is limited by the amount of hate that's within us. The level of love that we can feel is limited by the number of judgments we've placed on other people. If we want to feel love, truly feel love, we need to eliminate our judgments, and we need to eliminate our hate. First, hating ourselves for having these feelings or emotions. And the emotions, when we break them down, are just sensations in the body from historical living, when we were younger and we didn't have the right vocabulary or tools to eliminate these reactions. So when we can recognize this and love our whole self, the good and the bad, and recognize there really is no bad, because if God is omnipotent, if the universal love is universal, it's all good. And the metamorphosis is what makes what we've perceived as bad good. It's like, yeah, you don't like caterpillars who eat your leaves on your trees, but you leave the cocoon alone and it becomes this beautiful butterfly that you admire. So when we take that hate, it's that raunchy caterpillar that keeps eating the leaves on my favorite plant, but then becomes the butterfly.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Thank you so much for that. So thank you for joining us, Evalyn. And I always appreciate your input and just love your graciousness that you bring to all of us. And so thank you everyone for listening, and peace, love, grace, and blessings.